So this video is going to be a beginner's guide to Arena. I'm going to rapid fire these tips and briefly touch upon them. Do note that this takes account to my experience in high level Arena in America server. I placed first in 2 arenas and placed 11th in the most recent World Arena and generally place somewhere within the top 20 nowadays. This isn't a flex, this is just to tell you my perspective because Arena in Challenger is a lot different than Arena in Platinum, for example. I have a free-to-play account to relive the experience of a lower level arena to gain some perspective, so I'll try to consider generalized tips that can apply to all skill levels. Let's begin. Tip 1. Arena has a barrier of entry. If you have shit units, it's hard to climb. I sometimes see people post how they have troubles making it higher in Arena with their units, just to realize they have almost no good units. The free +9 units that you get from the Jumpstart quest is not enough to climb beyond Diamond. Good units are important. You can make the argument that good decision making and smart play can triumph over everything, and that's definitely the case sometimes, but good units equal consistency. You can make a lot of smart decisions, but it won't matter if your units randomly get stat checked every now and then. When your units are liable to underperform, then you're gambling. If your units cannot even win against the units that they are intended to counter, then you're gonna have a rough time. Your general jumpstart units that you get within the first few weeks of playing the game is decent enough to climb to Platinum actually, but beyond that, you're gonna have to try to have a few well-built 5-star and legend units. By well-built, I mean +12 to +15 with decent runes and maybe a rank boost or 2. Remember that units reach their most efficient skill level spike at +12. Some reach it later and some reach it earlier depending on the unit. If you have at least 4 +12 legends and a decent lineup of relevant 5 stars, then you might be good to climb, but it depends on which units you built of course. If you're a fool that built up your team of +15 Larkus, Elise, and Astrid before finishing anything else, then yeah, you might deserve being no higher than Diamond. To summarize, if you don't have the units yet, don't worry about climbing too much. You can still utilize the other tips I'll mention in this video to see how far you can push your team. Play the game at your leisure and don't stress about your rank. Tip 2. Pick a lane and don't scatter your units without thought. Scattering your units across all 3 lanes must be done methodically. Basically, it's a bad idea to try to simultaneously offload your offensive units in all 3 lanes. You may think, hey, if I put an attacking unit in all 3 lanes, I could simultaneously have all this coverage, but you're spreading yourself thin. A form ideally wants to do 2 things, stall as many of the enemy's offensive units as long as possible, and protect your offensive units. Spreading your form all over the place generally does not do well for both. Pick a lane and load your offensive units into that lane. This is now called your attack lane. On the lane above that, put your tanks there. This is your tank lane. Now you may ask me why I put my tank lane above my attack lane. Well, let me pivot to my third point. Tip 3. Remember the lane waterfall concept. One of the most important things to remember well in this game is that if a unit has no more units that can attack on their lane, they'll attack the lane below it. This is precisely why it's a good idea to have the tank lane above the attack lane. Your tank lane will stall the enemy so that your attack lane doesn't receive the focus damage. Your attack lane may still get hurt by AoE, but it depends on what units they run. Let's analyze this classic looking form. This is a good bread and butter form, and let me explain why. Any enemy unit attacking from the mid or bottom lane will run into your tanks. Your units will attack from the top and will begin to work downwards. If you have good tanks, then your attack lane has more time to chew through their top lane downwards. If you have good warriors, you can move downwards more quickly and chew at their form more efficiently. You may end up in a race of who can kill each other's tank more quickly and begin eating away at their attack lane. Remember that this is a general fundamental concept, and there are always exceptions. Some people play all 3 lanes, but it does not happen often because it generally is not good. Tip 4. Initiation is the most important part of the fight. Initiation is your opening attack. Make it count. Imagine playing chess and your opening move allows your bishop to somehow fly across the end of the board and take out the enemy queen. In chess that would be far too overpowered, but in Brave 9 the attacking initiative is heavily weighted towards the attacker, so make your opening move count. A good initiator has generally a few things, good AoE and are difficult to block because of damage properties such as fixed damage, defense ignoring damage, or direct damage. Some examples of good initiators in the current meta as of this video are Alec, Orfina, Falze, and Asmode. A good opening can win you the game, so keep that in mind. Tip 5. Climbing is different in different arena tiers. Climbing in Gold, Plat, and Diamond are primarily stat checks. With good form fundamentals, you can maintain a decent win ratio until you get stat checked by things you can't beat anymore. You're always going to get character checked in every tier unfortunately. You can compensate with smart forms and good adjustments, but you're bound to eventually run into a wall. Once you hit Crystal, Sapphire, and Ruby, you may start seeing familiar people and trends. Identifying those trends is key. If you see people primarily play mid lane, you can play top lane and put your tanks at bottom and have the attack advantage. If you see people primarily play top lane, you can still play top lane and win against them with a good horizontal initiator. Or alternatively, you could beat top lane and middle lanes with a sneaky bottom lane formation that utilizes good vertical coverage units. This is where adapting to trends becomes relevant, because a lot of the janky, weirder units that are hard to predict in the lower tiers are mostly filtered out, and if that's not the case, then you gotta climb higher. Climbing in Grandmaster and Challenger tier is a different concept. This is the tier where a lot of people set up defense forms. A defense form is simply a form that you leave while you idle, that are intended to trap certain people. It usually takes account to certain common openings and counterattacks in fairly unique ways. Avoiding these traps and maintaining a good win ratio against key targets is the way to climb in high level arena. You want to beat people above you because you gain a lot of points while ensuring that you don't lose to people below you, because the point loss is huge if you do lose. This is the tier where you're keeping track of names and start seeing familiar faces. It's at the point where you can start targeting specific players. Tip 6. If you see a trend in how people attack, leave up a defense form when you're inactive. A lot of mid to lower level players don't do this. Leaving up a defense form is powerful to farm points even without attacking. This is effective in high level play because it's fairly easy to understand or see trends and patterns of how certain people climb. If you ever see a trend such as a lot of people opening in a very specific way or a lot of people playing particularly in one lane, then you can leave a defense form to trap those specific players. Let me provide an example. Let's say I notice a lot of people playing top lane and utilizing an Alec opening. Alec hits the first 3 tiles. I can make a defensive form that guards this Alec and counterattacks with an Orfina and wipe out 3 potential units that may be in that lane. Having a defensive form is a good way to maintain your position when you're not actively playing. Consider trying to make one. Tip 7. Watch some of your fights. Sometimes the best way to adjust and optimize your form is to just see what is happening. You could probably make some tweaks in turn order, adjust a unit's position, or swap out one unit for another. Making those micro adjustments is really key to improving as a player and understanding the game, so I recommend watching a few of your fights. So yeah, 7 basic tips overall. These are generalized tips that play well into all levels of play. I can go into some more high level things later, but as for fundamentals, this is a good start. Thanks for watching.